Hello everyone, this is UC. Welcome to the weekly episode of iTradePrice. Here we will go through some of the charts that we follow and trade. So let's start off with Amazon. I'll quickly show you the monthly bars as well, since we had month of July just closed, so it gives us a good perspective what's happening on the higher time frame on a monthly basis. So here's Amazon, absolute monster since the past few months, and nothing wrong with the chart. It's just in a healthy uptrend. Okay, weekly time frame, holding this purple trend line, and every time we touch that we see the move back up. So but right now, since the past few weeks, we are seeing some sort of a consolidation sideways move on the weekly time frame, right? As you can see, we are in this 3250 and 2900, I would say, sort of a zone and sideways, right? It's not trending up, it's just holding that range on a weekly time frame, right? Just something like this what happened on the late April, early May time frame. So just something to keep in mind as you are performing your top-down analysis. Okay, so as you can see, here are the touch points on the daily time frame. So we are holding that nicely so far. We are above the 20 SMA as well. We did see a couple of times the market closed below that, but there was no follow-through. And let me zoom in a little bit. So this area of 3098 or 3100, if you just want to round it off a little bit, was resistance all past week. However, on Friday we did see earnings breakout, but the stock kind of sold off for the most of the time after it opened. And this has been a very stiff resistance area. Every time we kind of come here in this shaded region, the stock sells off. Right here it did that early July, it did that in the mid-July, and then similar thing late July. So it is a very stiff resistance area for the stock to break out from, and even with earnings it could not do that, so that is concerning. Now, on early part of next week, from tomorrow, if we are to see the pull back down, I would look for support at the previous breakout area here around 3098, because that was resistance, plus the short-term trend line is also meets there, and this can also be where the 20 SMA kind of moves back up a little bit here because the stock moved up. So once it opens, this might meet it around 3100 as well. So that can be a good pullback long trade to get into Amazon if we are to see that kind of a move. However, if that one breaks, we are back into this consolidation zone, and we can go kind of sideways from there, keep going sideways, and until we remain above this trend line, the bias is up. But if we are to give that trend line roll over from there, the weekly support is at 29.95, this yellow line. If we are to roll back from that as well, then definitely the next support area comes around 2900 or 2888 level, if you want to just kind of be a little exact. So yeah, something that I don't like from bullish perspective is that I don't like these bearish trend bars every time we trade around 3250. So something that I would like to see overcome if the bullish case has to remain sort of in this game right now. So just something to watch. Apple, monthly time frame, absolute monster, all bullish trend bars. So what that means is it opens sort of in the low end of that bar and closes at the high end of that bar. So there's very little top wick, which is very bullish. Weekly time frame, holding that channel and actually above that channel now, sort of in the breakout area. Since we had earnings on Friday and they announced a 4-for-1 stock split, so a lot of people are buying this in the hype that they will end up owning more shares. So just it is what it is. The market kind of acts that way. The market cap remains the same, but it's just that people think that it will be affordable to kind of have this trade this name, so that's why they like to buy that right now before the split, so that they will have more shares and kind of ride it back up, because apparently it is easy for a $100 stock to move to 200 rather than a $400 stock to move to 800. Just something kind of work that way. So we have this huge gap up, which remains to be seen if it gets filled up or not, but we did break this 397 resistance area with the gap up, so that becomes the first major support to look for if we are to see any pullback. But I doubt we will see any major pullback in this name, because the split does not happen until the end of August, so we can see consistent sort of interest in this name from retail investors or retail buyers who just want to own this name but couldn't afford it at this pricey level, so they will look to see if they can buy it after the split or even before the split, thinking that they'll have more shares. Okay, but it's more so right now. It's just Apple is more of a market sentiment for technology stocks rather than just it's not really tradable or buyable here. I mean, if you just want to chase this, sure, be my guest, but I'm not doing that. So here's a monthly chart of Microsoft. A little pause in the monthly bar. As you can see, we have this top wick and a doji looking bar, so something to observe. And in the weekly time frame, we have this weekly pullback. Stock tried to go back up, couldn't do it, gave us a long top wick, and even after positive sentiment from Amazon and Apple, the stock couldn't really rally back up towards the high of its recent range. So relatively weak name. Okay, and in the daily time frame, it is holding this trend line. It is holding this purple trend line on a closing basis. So every time the stock comes back towards this trend line, it gets bid up and closes above this trend line. So that is good. But we have this sort of let me just kind of highlight that. We have this sort of range that it traded for in the most part in the previous week. So if we are to see any strength back up, we can see, hey, it can kind of give us this bullish bull flag kind of a move where this range can double into this range here on top of that. Or if we are to break down below this range, we can see something like this. But look for this support, weekly support at 193, which has been a good support, and then 50 SMA will come in here as well. So that plus this channel support can provide some bounce. But eventually, if we are to see a roll over, there's much more bigger support around 184. However, right now with current market sentiment, I don't see that happening, but just something to keep in mind if it were to happen like that. Let me remove this, let me remove that just so that it's clean, and I'll remove that too. So this is Microsoft, and it's range bound but bullish looking with this bullish bottom wick hammer bar below 20 SMA, which is this yellow line, and can provide resistance. And it's a relatively weak name, but still in a channel. So we'll see what Monday brings. Netflix, not much going on with this name. Monthly chart, top, long, wick. Earnings couldn't really lift it up that much. So not sort of a little boring chart. We only have a credit spread that we ended up closing, but it was a good one since the stock did not drop and just being choppy. And as you can see, a daily, weekly bar, what a narrow range of just 20 points for this chart on a weekly time frame. That's nothing. It's sort of an inside week, right? But holding this 467 support, weekly support. So if it was to move back up above the high of this inside bar, that is somewhat bullish, but not really crazy aggressive bullish for right now. And daily bar, they're kind of consolidating below the 20 SMA. So unless or until we start seeing it move back above 500 and start kind of closing above this 20 SMA, it's hard to be overly aggressive towards the buy side for this name. NVDA earnings coming up mid-August, and Monthly chart looks nice. Again, bullish bars all the way. Nothing wrong there. Weeklies also similar looking, very bullish action. The reason is you can see we traded here for the most part and then eventually held the channel back up. We'd move back up, touch the channel top, and since the past few weeks we are sideways, but this past week we closed above the on the top end of its 4-week range, right? The stock couldn't move below this 408 support level, which is sort of a midpoint for the past few weeks, sort of a pivot point. It closed on the top end of that range, and given in a daily time frame, we are above all the short-term moving averages. It's sort of getting resisted here at 430 area, so look for that to break out. If it does not get failed, we can see some sideways chop here until we get close to the earnings. So yeah, just something to keep an eye on. BA, not much happening, sort of bearish looking monthly bar. Not really interested in this name until on the long side, at least until we are above this short-term moving averages. Otherwise, it's just constant bleeding in this name. And you can have some intraday setups, but nothing too exciting in this name. It's just poor structure overall. ROKU, I like that name. Monthly looks good after the breakout. July was a good month. Not that big of a volume, but that could be because everybody's waiting for the earnings. And on a weekly time frame, we are in this consolidation sideways phase, with 147 being a heavy support and 160, 158 area being the heavy resistance, which is let me highlight that again, resistance, and this is support. So we have been trading in this range for the past few weeks now. So every time the stock drops towards 147, you just kind of get in calls, play the bounce, and if we were to see the move back up above towards 160, you can short it for the move back down towards the pivot area, which has been around 153. So we did manage to close above that pivot on the weekly time frame. That is somewhat encouraging and nice. And let's look at in the daily. Very choppy top wicks, but holding this support zone, holding 20 SMA, and closed above the pivot. So slightly bullish, not a whole lot, because earnings are coming up and we can see sideways until we get closer and see a little bit of pre-earnings run, which it could start early next week, and see how it goes, but it's not always the case. So I would rather wait and just wait for a confirmed move above this 160, or just look for play the bounces for now. Not really interested in playing on the short side until or unless we see a close below the 20 SMA or close below the 147 price, because that has been a good support. Okay, let's look at Tesla, the cult stock. Monthly time frame, just crazy move up. Nothing really telling other than the weekly time frame tells us that we are in this we're holding this 1366 support zone, and but with long top wicks. So every time the stock tries to run, sellers come in and push the price down. Okay, so not really picking up steam. And on Friday in a daily, you can see we have this bearish trend bar. We had this bearish trend bar. So just more bearish trend bars, and every time we see a bearish trend bar, we get this sort of lower highs. So that was a good high, lower high, and then another sort of lower high. If we are to break below 1413, the only support, major support I see is 1360, 1350 area. If that is taken off, then we have a lot of these gaps to fill on the downside, and given we are below 20 SMA in the daily, the pressure can remain on the downside towards this upward trend line and 50 SMA, which can, by the time the price comes down, this can kind of come back up towards 1266 or 1300. So that's a broader view of this name. I'm more interested in selling the rallies or shorting this on any strength rather than buying this until or unless we see a reversal reversal back above 1565, which is the weekly swing low here. So it needs to take that out for me to start feeling bullish back again. Otherwise, it's just sideways to down right now. So, okay. All right. Hope you guys liked this video. For any comments, any questions, please feel free to reach out me or any, and we'll be happy to respond. Thank you, and have a good rest of your weekend. And we won't be active tomorrow, but we'll definitely see you back on Tuesday morning. Thank you.